All right, so a little EOC review. That's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna try and work through most of the problems. Just feel like it's a little more beneficial. You can always pause the video if you need to, um, but I'm gonna work through a lot of them, have some explanations on them and stuff like that. So the first question, it says, a system of equations is graphed below. What are the solutions to a system? Well, anytime there's a system and they graph it, it's wherever those two lines intersect. So if you look at this, I have my x-axis, my y-axis. They intersect at these 2 points, and it's possible to have multiple answers. And so this system, the answers are 4, 10, and 7, and 7.75. So the answer on that one's C. So anytime there's a system and they graph it, it's where they intersect at. Number 2, it says, which of the following are factors of the equation when written in factored form? Select all that apply. Well, just kind of based off what we recently did, I know a lot of people can kind of figure out that they want it to be equal to 0. So we're going to subtract 3a and combine it with the 8a. So we get 2a squared plus 5a minus 15 equals negative 3. And then we're going to add the 3 over. Then we get 2a squared plus 5a minus 12 equals 0. And so even if you get stuck here, you should know that whatever I multiply together has to give me 2a squared. So I can't use C, D, E, and F together. I can use one of them, but not together. And so that means I have to use A or B, and then one of the options of C, D, E, F. But you also know that the last two numbers need to multiply to give you negative 12. So let's say I use A. Okay, so let's say I use A minus 4. Well, then I have to use 2a plus 3 because the positive 3 and the negative 4 will give me negative 12, and the 2a and the a will give me 2a squared. So when I FOIL this, aka the box method, this is what I get. That turns into negative 5a. If you notice, I don't want negative 5a. So I need to switch the signs on both of them, which means my answer is going to be B and D. And I'll show you how to do it if you don't want to just kind of guess and check, but some people get stuck here. This is called AC factoring. So it's the AC method. So I would take 2 times negative 12, so A times C, to get negative 24. And then I list out the factors of negative 24. So negative 1, 24, negative 2 and 12, negative 3 and 8, negative 4 and 6. Yeah, I'm looking for the pair that adds up to a positive 5. Well, that would be negative 3 and 8. So then I rewrite the problem, and I say 2a squared minus 3a plus 8a minus 12 equals 0. And then I do factor by grouping, so I group the first two, and then I group 3 and 4. And so then I think, what's the GCF of these first two? Well, it's an a, so then I would get 2a minus 3. And the other one's a positive 4, so then I would get 2a minus 3. Remember, whenever you do the AC method, these have to be the same. So then I combine a plus 4, and I say 2a minus 3 equals 0, which we said was B and D, and that is correct. So again, even if you don't know how to do it completely, you can use reasoning to help you answer the problem. Okay? Number 3, it says Kelly recorded the amount of money she earned, Y for hours worked, X in the table shown below. Select the words that correctly complete the sentences. So the function is, well, if you notice, my Y values are going up. So the function is increasing. And that one should be fairly easy. And then it says the function is linear, quadratic, or exponential. Linear means I'm adding or subtracting every single time. Exponential means I multiply or divide by the same number every single time. And then quadratic can have repeat values. It's the easiest way to tell the difference. So in this case, you notice I'm going up every single time, and it looks like I'm adding. I know it skips 2, which means I add 30, and then I add 15. So I divide 30 by 2, I get 15, which means it's going to be linear because I'm adding by 15 every single time. And it says, all right, now what's the y-intercept? Well, I want this to be 0, which means I need to subtract 15, which means I would get 0. So 0, 0 is your y-intercept. Number 4, it says the table shows the distance that school will travel to attend a field trip to the state capital. School 7 has to travel 15 miles, and this outlier is added to the data, which is a true statement about how it changes the data in the table. Select all statements that apply. So anytime they give you a list of data, or data, however you want to say it, I would look at what they're asking you. It says mean, median, is more spread, less spread. So I would list it in order. So I'm going to throw 15 in here. And I'm going to have 150, 200, 380, shows up twice, 400, and then 425. Again, anytime they give you a list of data, I would list it in order from least to greatest and then make it observations based off of that. So A says the data is less spread. Well, if I add 15 in there, that's going to spread it out even more, so it has to be B. It's going to spread it out even more. And it says both the median and the mean change. Well, we know the average, which is mean, is going to change. The median, though, is the middle number. So let's see if that's changed. Because if I throw in 15, you know the average is going to change. So the middle without 15, so we're going to kind of ignore it for now. I'm going to move it over here to say we're ignoring it. The middle, 150, 425, 200, 400. Well, then there's 380 in the middle twice, which means you would add it together and divide it by 2, and so you get 380 as the median. But then say you throw that 15 in there. So now I have 15, 425, 150, 400, 200, 380. So then 380 is still the middle. So the median does not change. So is there one that says the median stays the same and the mean changes? Well, yeah, that is F. So I know that has to be correct. And let's read all the other ones. There is no change in the median and mean. Again, if you add a really small number in there, it's probably going to change the average. So we know the mean has to change, so it's not D. There is no change in the spread of the data. Again, if you throw a really small number in there that's not a part of it, it's going to change the spread of the data. And then it says the median changes and the mean stays the same. The median was the one that stayed the same, and the mean was the one that changed. Okay? There's also mode. Don't forget about mode. Mode is the one that shows the most common. Range is kind of like the spread. And then that's pretty much it for mean, median, and mode. Number 5 is kind of a tough one. It says the formula for the area of a trapezoid is A equals 1/2 times base 1 plus base 2 times height. Solve for base 1. Which equation is the correct value for base 1? So they kind of throw you for a loop here and they say, oh yeah, trapezoid, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like a distractor. Really what they want you to do is they want you to get base 1 by itself. And so what I've got to do is I've got to do the opposite of everything on the right side to move it to the left side of the equal sign. So this 1/2 is where I'm going to start. It's like dividing by 2, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So when I do that, I get 2a equals the base 1, base 2 is still there, and so is the height. But the 1/2 and the 2 are going to cancel each other out because they're going to make 1. Now again, I'm still trying to get base 1 by itself. So right now I'm taking base 1 plus base 2 times h. So I've got to get rid of that h first. So I'm going to divide both sides by h. So I get 2a over h equals base 1 plus base 2. So since I'm no longer multiplying, I can get rid of my parentheses. And then again, I want to get base 1 by itself, so I'm going to subtract base 2 to the other side. I can't combine it with the 2a and the h because they don't have the same denominator, which means I need to write it out to the side. So is there one that looks like 2a over h minus base 2 is equal to base 1? Yeah, the answer is B. Again, a lot of this is just thinking about what is the opposite of what I need to do to get it to the other side of the equation in order to get the variable or whatever they want me to get by itself. Number 6, it says the area in square units of a rectangle is represented by 6x cubed minus 2x squared plus 4x. If the width in units is 2x, what is the length in units? Well, I know width times length equals area, and I know the area. So really it's like you're dividing by 2x. And division, when we're talking about polynomials, is like factoring. So I'm factoring out 2x. So I'm going to say 2x is my width. I don't know my length, but it should equal 6x cubed minus 2x squared plus 4x. So we're going to factor out 2x. So 2 times what gives me 6? Well, that would be 3. I have 1x. I want 3 of them, so I need 2 more on the inside. And that's it for that term. So then I go to the next term. 2 times negative 1 Well, there's two x's, I only have one, so I'm going to write one x here. And then lastly, I have positive 4x. I want to multiply it by 2. I don't need an x to get that. So the length is 3x squared minus x plus 2. And we can decide, all right, well, does that work? If we do the box method, I should get back to this answer because that's the area, because this is width times length. And again, if you do the box method and you multiply, or even if you just distribute, you get what we started with, which is what your goal is. So the length is that answer right there. Number 7, it says, which student correctly solved the expression? Well, if you remember, whenever we multiply, all right, and we're talking about exponents, that means we add the exponents. So I'm going to take 1/3 plus 1/4. And you can probably type that into your calculator, or you can convert it to the same denominator. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 4 on the left side, and the top and the bottom by 3 on the right side, because their common denominator is 12. So I get 4/12 plus 3/12. So now I can add the tops, and the bottom does not change. So my exponent should now be 7/12. Well, is there an option with 7/12? Yes, it's A and C. But let's see, it says, because the exponents should be added, or should they be multiplied? Well, we just added them, so the answer is A. Because whenever you multiply, you add exponents, which means whenever you divide, you subtract exponents. This is the graph of y equals f of x. It says, which of the following is the graph of y equals 2 f of x minus 1? Again, I like to look at the y-intercept. Not y-intercept, but in this case, it's the vertex as well. And just think about, what's the vertex doing on this graph? So if I double it, that means I'm going to go up 2 times 2. That means I'm going to go up to 4. And I say minus 1. Well, minus 1 means I'm going to move it down 1. So now I'm going to be right here on 3. So is there one that has a vertex on 0, 3? Well, the answer is B, because I moved the vertex, I doubled it, and then I moved it down 1. Number 9, it says the residual is defined as the difference between the actual value of the dependent variable and the value predicted by the model. Which graph best represents the relationship that minimizes residuals? So if I want to minimize it, that means I want it to accurately represent the data that is there. So I really want it to represent those dots as best as possible. Well, A is kind of a flat line. It looks like my dots are trending upward. B, it goes down, which doesn't really make sense because my dots are going upward. C, it's still sloping down. Not even a slope, it's exponentially going down. And then D, finally, it's going up, and it kind of represents the data, right? My points are gradually going up at a steady rate. And so I would say D minimizes the residuals. Number 10, it says the ordered pairs in the table are possible solutions to the given equations. Match each ordered pair to the equation for which it is the solution. Ordered pairs may be used more than once. So -5, 0, well, anytime they give you an ordered pair, that's an x and a y. Can I sub that in for the x and the y in the equation? Well, yeah. So the first one, -2 times, instead of writing x, I'm going to say -5. Plus 5 times 0 equals 10. So I would get 10 plus 0 equals 10, which means 10 equals 10, which is a true statement. So I know it works for that equation. So then I try it in the other one. I know it's not going to be neither anymore, so I don't have to worry about that. So then I'm going to say 0 equals 2 times 3 to the -5th. When you do this, you get a really small decimal. I can't remember what it is. I don't have a calculator on me, so I'm not going to type it in. But you get something really, really small. I would do 3 to the -5th first, and then multiply it by 2. The big thing is it's not 0. It's a decimal, so it doesn't work for the second one. So then you go to the next coordinate, and you just repeat the process. Now, instead of plugging in -5 for x, I'm going to plug in 0 for x. And I'm going to plug in -5 for y, and see if it equals 10. So you get -25 equals 10, which is not true. So then I plug it into the other one. It doesn't work for the other one as well, so this one's a neither option. And then you go to 0, 2. Well, 0, 2 works for both of them if you plug it in. And lastly, 1, 6 works for this one if you plug it in. So again, it's just replacing the x and the y with the value you see in the ordered pair. Okay? So just make sure if they ever give you ordered pairs and say, hey, is it a solution? You plug it in and you see if it works. Number 11, it says the police department captured 30 speeds on radar and organized the data in the box plot shown. So if we look at this, it says the mean is equal to the median. And I want to select all that apply. And if you look at this, the mean's the average, the median's the middle. Well, the middle is represented by that line right here. And so our mean and median are going to be exactly the same because it's a little skewed. There's a difference of 10 inside the box and then 20, which means the middle is probably going to be somewhere else. So it's not A. The mean is probably less than 30 miles per hour. Again, the median is, hopefully I can get those words mixed up what I just said. The median is that line right there. That's the middle, which means there's skewed data here, which means the mean is going to be less than that middle part. So the mean is probably less than 30 miles per hour. We could probably assume that's true because there's more numbers here represented by this box than there is to the right side of it, which means it's got to be less than the middle part, which means C is not true. So then it says if an officer captures an additional speed of 70 miles per hour, the mean must change. Well, yes, if I increase up to 70, then definitely the mean has to change. If an officer captures an additional speed of 70 miles per hour, the median must change. The middle doesn't have to change because the middle is just based off of what numbers in the middle. We could have multiple repeats of 30 miles per hour, which means the middle is going to show up more than once, depending on even if you add a number. And we kind of did that whenever we did it on number, I think it was, let's see if I remember correctly, 4. I think it's number 4. Okay, so which equation completes the square to create an equivalent equation? This is something we didn't talk about. This is like the only thing that we haven't talked about. However, you can kind of use reasoning to answer this question. I know I want it to be this, so I could just actually take what they give me and FOIL it out and see if it gets me to what I want. So I could subtract 12. Well, that's awfully close, but it's got a minus 10x instead of plus 10x. So that was A, just me foiling it out. So then I go to B. If I FOIL it out, x plus 5 equals 12. So I get x squared plus 10x plus 25 equals 12. I subtract 12. I get x squared plus 10x plus 13 equals 0. So I know that's true. So it has to be B. But if you want to complete the square truly, you take the middle term, you divide it by 2, and you get 5, and you square that number to get 25. And so what you're going to do is you're going to add 25 to both sides. So I'm going to say x squared plus 10x plus 25 in parentheses plus 13 on the outside equals 25. So we're putting a 25 on both sides to make sure the equation still stays the same. But then I want to subtract 13. So then I have x squared plus 10x plus 25 equals 12. And if I factor this, it factors into x plus 5, because what multiplies to 25? That adds to 10. Well, that's 2 pairs of 5s. And then instead of writing it like that, I write it as x plus 5 squared equals 12, which again is B. So that's completing the square. Again, even if you don't know how to do it, you can use reasoning on this to help you answer the problem again. Number 13, which of the equations are represented by the graph shown? Select all that apply. So when we're doing this, the solutions, if you remember, are the x-intercepts. However, I want to change the signs on it. So x minus 2, x minus 4. So I know A is going to be an answer because if I set x minus 2 equals 0 and I solve it, I get 2, which means 2, 0 would be a coordinate, which means it's a solution. And the same way with x minus 4, I would solve it, I would get 4. All right, so we know A works. B, that's in vertex form. So I'm going to look at the vertex and see, is the vertex right 3, down 1? Because that's what those transformations are telling me, right 3, down 1. Well, yes, they are, so B is also an option. And then I go to C. All right, that says up 1 instead of down 1, so C doesn't work. And then I go to D. If you FOIL this out, okay, so I would get x squared minus 4x minus 2x plus 8. I combine the negative 2 and the negative 4 to get negative 6x. So again, if I take this, I do the box method or FOIL, however you want to do it. You get this, which is the same thing as D. So A, B, and D all work for this equation. E doesn't because it's a plus 6x instead of a minus 6x. Okay, 14, the graph of a linear equation is shown below. What equation represents the graph shown in the box in an equation that represents the graph shown? The easiest point to start with, guys, we really want to find our y-intercept. And then you just find another point and you use that to help you find the slope. So I would go down 2, right 3. Down 2 means a negative 2, right 3 means positive 3. So I would say y equals, and we're going to do mx plus b, negative 2/3 x plus 5. All right, so y-intercept goes at the end, slope goes here. If you remember that correctly, it's not too bad. So that's slope-intercept form, or you can write any equivalent equation, but normally we try slope-intercept form. It's just the easiest one that we work with the most. The quadratic function is shown in the graph up below. If the graph has moved 4 units left and 2 units down, what would the equation for the new graph be? So 4 units left, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 units down means I'm going to be right here. So my vertex is now at negative 2, positive 1, which means I wanted to say plus 2 and then up 1. So plus 2 inside parentheses, and then up 1 would be D, because my vertex is now here instead of at 0, 0. We always base it off of 0, 0 if we're doing vertex form. So it's left 2, up 1. What graph into left 2, up 1? Well, that would be D. Number 16, it says a car sales business is analyzing numbers of cars sold and the average daily high temperature. The data is shown on the graph below. It says which statement is correct based off of the data. So the temperature gives no indication of car sales. It's kind of true, but not really, because, or it's kind of false, sorry, because as the temperature goes up, what do you notice about the cars sold? It goes up as well. If the temperature is 50, the amount of car sales will definitely be 4 cars. If you look at 50, there's 2 dots there. One's a little bit above 4 at 5, and then one's at 7, so we don't really know if it will definitely be 4 cars sold. That just could be a coincidence. It could definitely be less than 4 cars one day. It just kind of depends on the day. See, it says the higher the temperature is correlated to higher car sales and causes the car sales to increase. Well, correlation is correct, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to cause the car sales to increase. So our answer is going to be D, because yes, it's going up, but that doesn't mean that car sales increase. Like, we can't definitely say that every single time. Because if you notice at like 50, it doesn't increase. It goes, one's lower than the other one, so it's pretty close to the 4 from the day before. You look at 30 and 35, they sold the same number. So it doesn't mean it always increases as the temperature goes up, but they are correlated. Select the graph that shows the solutions to the system of linear inequalities. Well, if you look at all the graphs, they're all the same lines. So you don't really have to worry about graphing it. Instead, you need to focus on this one is less than or equal to. So that's going to be the solid line, and I want to shade below it because it's less than or equal to. So on the solid line, I should shade on the bottom side. So here's my solid line. You see that it's in all those graphs, but I should shade here. So then this one, it says y is greater than. That means I'm going to shade above it. So I'm going to draw my dashed line. I'm going to put my pencil on the line and shade above it, which means I would shade this right side, okay, because that's where they overlap, which means D is the answer to the problem. Number 18, it says the following question has 2 parts. First, answer part A, then answer part B. Riley needs to save $300 for a computer. She gets an allowance of $10 a week and has already saved 75 bucks. How many weeks until Riley will have enough money to buy the computer? Select the correct inequality symbol to model the situation. Well, she says she needs to save $300 for a computer. The big thing is, can she go over $300? Yes. So I really want it to be like 300 is less than what I'm earning, because I need it to be over $300 in order to pay for it. All right. So then it says in part B, and the big thing is too, guys, if you look at this, it says 75. If I'm counting by tens, I'm never going to be exactly equal to the 300, which means I have to say less than, because I'm either going to be below it or above it, and I have to be above it if I've already had 75 bucks saved and I get 10 bucks a week. So then it says part B, what is the value that is the solution to the situation in part A? I'm just going to plug numbers in until I figure out which one's greater than 300. And whenever you do that, you finally figure out, well, 10 times 23 is 230. And then I add 75 to that, that's $305. That's the first time that you go over 300 bucks. So the answer is D. So then 19, it says the following function was used to calculate the profit generated by selling t-shirts. Let f of x equal 15x minus 25 represent the profit function, and x represent the number of t-shirts sold. which statement is true of f of 200? Well, f of 200 just means you're going to plug it in and you're going to solve it. So f of 200, so I'm going to plug it in for the x and see if I can get that. So when I do this, 15 times 200 gives me 3,000. Minus 25 gives me 2,975. So again, this is based off of x represents the number of t-shirts sold. Well, I just plugged something in for x. So I sold 200 t-shirts, which means I made $2,975, which means it's D. So yes, you got the right answer, but you got to look at which one is it. Is it C or D? Well, C, it says a result of 2,975, which means I sold that many shirts. No, I only sold 200 shirts because of the x was 200. Okay, last question for today. It says the equation of function f is f of x equals negative 3 halves x plus 120. The domain of the function is this. Graph function f over its domain. Be sure to include labels and appropriate increments on the axis. It's kind of up to you on how you want to do this. The big thing is your x values go from 0 to 60. So what I did is I just made my 0 here. And then I counted by 5s, but I only labeled every 10. So that is my domain from 0 to 60. And then my fractions, if you look at this, this is like saying negative 30 over 20. So I'm going to count by 10s over here to get to that 120. So again, the reason why I changed the slope to negative 30 over 20 is because that simplifies to negative 3 over 2. But I want to count by 10s because that's what I chose to count by on my axis. So it's just a little easier. So I start at 120 as my y-intercept. I'm going to go down 30 and then right 20. I'm going to go down 30, right 20, down 30, right 20. Let me put that one on the right one. Going to move this one. And so that is what your function looks like because our domain is limited to those values. And it's closed circles because they're both less than or equal to. And again, it's based off how you want to draw your graph. Everybody's can look different, but it should have that general idea of you have a negative slope, so it should be going down, and then it stops at 0 and 60, and that's it on your x-axis. Okay? So that's 1 through 20. We will release another video that goes over the next 20 or so questions. There's not as many. If you guys have any questions, please reach out and let us know. We really want to help you do well on this test, and it's kind of hard if you don't let us know how you're doing. So